I'd like to do a short series now on the question of power, what power is and what its relationship is to enterprise architecture. One of the things that we come up with a lot is that enterprise architecture is described well as relentlessly political. We're always dealing with people and we're always dealing with power issues. So there's a model I use called SEMPER, which is very helpful in tackling power issues. And what it is based on is a really simple dichotomy. The physics definition of power is the ability to do work. But far too many social definitions of power are the ability to avoid work or to entrap others into doing our work for us. The trouble is that if power is the ability to avoid work, then ultimately no work gets done, which means that we don't have things completed. So the SEMPER scale, the scale it uses is from actively dysfunctional, where things are really, everyone is tied up with the ability to avoid work, to wholeness responsibility, where each person is utterly committed to doing whatever work is necessary to get the enterprise to work. This is why it's so important in enterprise architecture, because we're very concerned about work being done in an effective way. So the first one is an understanding that power, the ultimate source of power, is actually only from within the self. It's like an inner fire, and we have to maintain that fire. We can have power where we work with each other to help each other find that power from within. A kind of neutral command and control is not very successful. It's trying to limit things. If you think of classic Taylorism, you're using only a very limited amount of each person's power that fits with the pigeonhole that we've put the person in. So it's a very inefficient use, but at least we're getting some kind of power out of the situation. We've then got the first stage, a kind of passive dysfunctionality, where people are avoiding responsibility. They're offloading responsibility to others. They're trying to blame. They're trying to avoid. It's not my job, mate. It's not in my job description. All these kind of things are what we might call power under, where we conceal really just how much we're avoiding work. But the trouble is that less and less work gets done. Eventually, we end up with what we call power over, where we prop ourselves up by putting others down. A classic dysfunctional competition, for example, will use up all of the available energy in the competition, and ultimately no work is done at all. So the usual relationship to power, which is the idea of win or lose, that I win because you lose, and therefore if I put my effort into making sure you lose, I believe that I win, the kind of transactional model, is actually an illusory form of lose-lose. The apparent short-term win for the self marks the longer-term lose for everyone, including the so-called winner. So really the only viable choice that actually exists around power is either everyone wins or everyone loses. And we need to get it to a point where actually everyone wins. That's the real question of power that we need to address in enterprise architecture, about making sure that the ability to do work and the valuing of that work occurs, because otherwise everyone loses.